as I get ready to introduce our speakers today, is what I want to say is oftentimes I'll introduce a speaker by telling you all about that speaker. And I'm not going to do that today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that Ed and Kim Nichols have their own family in our church and members of our church. We have Josh and Abram, and their families, of course. And is what I want to say as I introduce our speakers today as missionaries that come to share with us what they've been doing across the world, really, is I want to say sometimes we really know what somebody is and who they are by the fruit they produce. And I'm telling you what, Josh and Abram, their sons, are good fruit. Amen. Josh is our young adults leader. So if you're a young adult and you want to get involved, Josh Nichols is the young adults leader, and he also is the one that takes care of our website and makes special signs when we need them and does anything he can do within his talents, and it's always yes. And I try really hard not to ask him too many things. But he's got a lot of talent. And then we have Abram. And Abram is super special in my heart because he always tells me, and not just tells me, but he says, our family prays for you every night. And I know it's true because his children come and tell me that they're praying for me. His little children. They're really adorable. They got blonde hair and their son's got big curly hair. Just super adorable. But Abram is special to me too because he has a heart for people. He has compassion. And he's somebody that I can always call in and say, hey, somebody in our congregation needs a little extra special love. Can you help them out? And he's always willing to do that. And he always says, I'll do anything that you need me to do. I'm a pastor's son, and I know how hard it can be. So, Abram, I appreciate that. So, Ed and Kim, would you guys come on up? We'll get you up.
Well, hey, there we go. I pastored in Newburgh for 20 plus years, and we have filbert nuts there. And the statement there is the nut doesn't fall too far from the tree. It's also true of my family. We are a little crazy sometimes, but I am proud of my family. I just need to say today that I am one of the most blessed human beings on the face of the earth. And I know that for sure. There we go.
Great. Good morning. Since we are completely out of typical here with that introduction, y'all are family. We don't know if you know that, but they're family, and that makes you all family. Some of us are cousins that are a little stranger than most, but thanks to Jesus, we're all family. And we might have laughed during a very serious moment this morning when the scripture was read about the very hairs on your head are numbered.
That was easy for God.
2. Yeah. So what do we do is probably a better question, right? My name's Kim. My husband Ed and I are missionaries with the Church of the Nazarene. We've been serving in Guatemala for the last 2 years. Our job has primarily been to support some other cousins that live in another country, in another part of the world, and supporting their local churches that look a lot like you, sound a little bit different than you, and I haven't seen carpet in a church.
No, it's kind of nice, actually. My feet kind of slip. I almost trip on them sometimes.
But they have these beautiful tile floors, and when it's hot, it's really nice. But here it's cold in the winter, and we kind of like our carpet. Together, our job there is to support local churches with their construction needs. We serve 20 districts in 3 countries. Now, the interesting part of that is I think those 3 countries together are probably not much bigger than the state of Oregon. So if you can imagine 20 districts in our great state of Oregon, that's pretty exciting. And while we're building buildings or putting on roofs or whatever we're doing, we are also remembering and calling the church to remember we're the church. We're here to build the church. And if we have time, we'll build the building. So, and you can appreciate that, right? That buildings are kind of nice. It's gorgeous outside today. We could be outside without a problem. But if it was pouring rain or snowing, we're really thankful for this roof. And our brothers and sisters in Guatemala likewise appreciate when God provides them with a roof or something like that. So thanks, family, for letting us be here today.
You're all a Church of the Nazarene, and we have a little thing called World Evangelism Fund. Sometimes in the Church of the Nazarene, we have these acronyms, and no one knows what they mean. WEF, World Evangelism Fund. It gets more confusing when you go to a different country, and the acronym changes because of the language. It's FEM there. So you're going, what is that? And then you realize you got to work through the language that's there. But we directly benefit from World Evangelism Fund. Now, we have been what's called sponsored missionaries in the Church of Nazarene, so we have been tasked with raising all of our funding. We're not a global missionary, so we've tasked to raise all of our funding in the last 2 years. However, I'm telling you, we would not be able to be on the mission field if it wasn't for World Evangelism Fund. The house we live in, the infrastructure that's in place, the things that are happening there are directly because of the faithfulness of Nazarenes around the world. You need to understand this. We've had teams come and they were shocked that we took alabaster funds and what do you mean they pay World Evangelism funds? Every Church of the Nazarene all over the world pays World Evangelism Fund. We're all a part of a family that's involved in making sure that the gospel of Jesus Christ and the message of holiness is being spread around the world today. And you're a part of that, and we thank you for that very, very much. I also just need to send you greetings from Mesoamerica region, which is what we're a part of, and the North Central field. As Kim says, 3 countries, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. That's where we've been working. We'll be going back next week for a couple of weeks, finalizing some things, and then moving back to take care of Kim's mom in Central Oregon as she's 89 years old and not doing well physically.
So technology is so much fun. But sometimes we can make it work. So the question might be, so what's my part in mission? What's your part? Since we already talked about that.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Here's an explanation of World Evangelism
Let's watch
Funds.
and enjoy this.
It's at the heart of the Church of the Nazarene. It defines who we are. And making Christ-like disciples in the nations is our mission, our calling. From the very beginning, we have prayerfully sent missionaries into the world with Christ's transformational love. Nazarene missions exist to establish and support local Nazarene churches around the world. Our belief is that through a well-organized group of believers, local communities can be transformed. Our work focuses on facilitating opportunities, making connections, and developing relationships through every church. Every church is provided with ongoing resources that help the church be effective in ministry and outreach. To make Christ-like disciples, mission centers around the 3 areas of compassion, evangelism, and education, focusing on the heart, soul, and mind of people in every nation. Each of these methods are interconnected, working hand in hand to bring restoration, share the gospel, and build sustainability within each community. Jesus said, "As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." We are answering this call. Nazarene Missions is a movement of God through the people of God.
So there you have it. What's my part? A movement of God through the people of God. What's my part? What's your part? Well, we can pray, right? Where are my kids, like under 15, that are in this room? Can you guys pray? Yeah. That means you're missionaries too. Wait, what? We'll explain that as we go. All right? So let me tell you a story of Pastor Heriberto in Ichab, a small village in the central mountains of Guatemala. If you met Pastor Heriberto, he's about this tall and as strong as they come. For a decade, he lived in this mountain community, prayed for his community, and they gathered for worship in a church building smaller than the stage, a little bit smaller, about 75 people. But his dream was for a building that could hold his whole community. And his dream was for the whole community to know Jesus. And so, as he began to share with his congregation, they started to catch on and said, maybe there's something to this. And the church started bringing a cement block as an offering, and another cement block as an offering, and another cement block as an offering. And over the process of a decade, they put up walls the size of a regulation basketball court. So from the stage to a basketball court, a few blocks at a time. And then we had the privilege of joining with them with a small team of 5 or 6 Nazarenes from Ohio and 5 or 6 Nazarenes from 7 hours away in Guatemala. And those 3 groups of people came together and put a roof on the building that they had started. Anybody want to do the roof? Anybody want to be on top? There we go. She's on it. Usually there's a couple in every crowd. We're glad you're here. Now they have a sanctuary that's that size with a roof over the top in a village with no running water and no paved roads. And as we worshiped together in this new space right before we left, these typically stoic Mayan men, okay, I know this is Molalla. You guys have learned to be expressive about your love for Jesus. You've learned to be expressive in worship. You've learned to be expressive about yourselves as you share with one another.
Nobody's expressive as the one that was on the stage on the far right.
Exactly, okay? So you guys have learned this. But if I asked you about typical men in the United States, how many men in the United States think it's okay to cry in public? Okay. Guatemalan Mayans make United States of American men look like the most expressive people on the planet emotionally. And these Mayan men wept in gratitude to God for what God had done among them and for what God was going to do in their community. And Pastor Heriberto could hardly contain his joy because he knew what was next. A couple of weeks later, he sent us this picture. Now, you might not quite get it, but that's the cement floor being poured. You're part about that?
Yeah, just let you know, when we go to these teams, this was an expensive roof. This roof was over $20,000. It's a double Viga system, the biggest one we've ever put in. So typically when we go to sites, we put in a roof, maybe a cement floor, and then electricity. We had enough to do the electricity, but we didn't have enough to do the floor. If you look at the, here, let me go back here. This one right here, there's no cement in that floor because we didn't have the funds to do it. So the team from Ohio came to us and said, hey, what's going to cost material-wise for us to be able to get them a floor? So we got the heads together that knew, and They sat down and figured it was going to $3,000 worth of material. So we came and talked to the pastor, and the pastor said, we have enough for the windows and the doors, but we don't have enough for the floor. Okay? So we didn't send money. That team from Ohio kept saying, hey, we haven't heard anything back. 3 weeks later, we get this picture.
About half the concrete's in.
And then, another week later, we got that?
And the concrete floor is done, and the windows and doors are in.
I'll share a little bit about that in a bit, but understand that when God does something, he does it completely. What's my part in missions? You've already said pray, and I didn't hear this all excitement about prayer. We'll talk with you about that after the service.
Well, the kids were excited to pray. They just weren't sure about being missionaries.
Yeah, that's true. What's my part? Give. Right? We know that. I've been a pastor for almost my whole life. 45 years. And I look at Scott and I realize, yes, it has been that long. Right? And I just need to let you know, we have these emphasis usually in the church. We pray, we give, but giving's always been the tough ones for us in the U.S. And I'm telling you, it's more than your money that it's involved in giving. Much more. That's the tip of the iceberg of giving. This church that you see in front of us, if they'll put it back up there, that's a church. It's a suburb of Guatemala called San Cris. That's the front of the building. As you can see, it's not completely finished. But when you go inside the building, when they do this, they go in the buildings and they start worshiping them when they're not finished. We had a team that came and put a wall up in the back because people were getting into the church from behind, and we did all this, and we celebrated. And then we went back to that church because they're loving. They would ask us, this was just as COVID was coming to conclusion, they would say, can we hug you? This is a hugging church. If you can escape from that church without being hugged, you'd have to run away from people. They're a hugging, loving church. And so we went back a couple weeks later. Okay, now I want you to look at the stage. Oh, here we go. Let's go the right direction here. Oh, wow, I'm early. Yeah, I just got to do it the right way. That's the stage when we saw it. 2 weeks later, we come back, and that's the stage. Beautiful, isn't it? I wish we'd taken pictures of their bathrooms. They just finished their bathrooms. They were gorgeous bathrooms. They were absolutely beautiful bathrooms. And I told our team, when they get done with this church, the whole church will be beautiful like that. This stage, we come back and we said, Pastor, what happened? What happened with the stage? He said, well, there's a businessman that would drive by the church, and he stopped one day, no church affiliation. He stopped one day and he says, I see that you're doing things for a community. He said, what's it going to cost to finish your stage? And they knew exactly what it was going to cost to finish their stage. And he gave them the money right then. Now, I need to let you know this so you hear it. God owns it all anyway. Even what you have, he owns, he's allowed you to have. And if we won't follow through, he'll find a way to help us follow through. But it'd be better if we follow through, because then we receive the blessing as well. I'm going to tell you, we've said this in almost every church we've been in. If I hear that this church, and I have ears here, if I hear that some rich guy in the community comes to you and says, hey, I know that you're dreaming about this ministry and reaching this particular area, and I believe in that. And you look at him and say, he's an evil sinner. We can't take his money. I will personally come back and slap all of you. Because that's God giving it to you. It's all his. Now, there's another part of this story. As we've told this story, I was in a particular location, and I was involved with boy, here I go again. I'm just kind of giving you, it's like getting you a foretaste before you know. But I was in a place, and we were raising funds, and this guy comes up to me, and who I've known years earlier, and he'd come to know Jesus, and I told him I'd been praying for him. He says, "You're the rascal who's been praying for me." Yes, I am that rascal that will pray for you if you're not saved. And he said, Ed, he said, I make about, he gave, I don't know what it was, about $8,000 a month, and I only need about $1,600 to live on. He said, "Do you know what I'm going to do with the rest?" I said, "Whatever God tells you." He said, "I'm going to give it to you." And I started to say, no. By the way, it didn't happen. But I started to say no, and then God said, "Do I need to gift slap you?" Because I think we all do it, folks. God will supply it however he wants, in ways that you will never imagine if you'll just step out in faith and believing. When we said yes to this call, one of my first concerns is, how am I going to do that, God? And God said, "Don't worry about it. I have it handled." And I've learned as a believer, when God says I'm taking care of it, he takes care of it. And I haven't worried because guess what? He takes care of it. So I don't know what you're dreaming of and what God's placing in your heart as a local church to minister to the mission field that God's put you in, but don't limit him.
So what's my part? We can pray, we can give. You've seen this slide a couple times, but we can go. Let me share just one more story with you. What do you get when you put together, not you, a bilingual pastor in his 70s, a small group of retirees from the southeast corner of the United States, and a group of about 15 young adult men that only speak Spanish from Guatemala? Oh yeah, and some of them speak Quiché, which is a Mayan dialect. What do you get? Sounds like a punchline for a bad joke coming up, doesn't it? Okay, it's not. We put them all together on the seminary campus in Guatemala City, and we got this. We got a picture of what God might want to do. A little bit more. More. There we go. We got a synthetic soccer field. Now, the pastor preached on Sunday morning in Spanish, and the soccer field was built to be used for both evangelism and fellowship. Now, I know that we all know, what's that called? Soccer.
Nope. Football.
Football. The rest of the world, this is football. Right? American football is that weird thing they do with the odd-shaped thing every fall. And some of us get excited about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the world, this is football. And not only will people come where there's a synthetic field, they'll play football, they'll play soccer barefoot on gravel and love it. Not a problem. But if you have a synthetic field, they will pay for the privilege of renting that field. And they don't care if you share the gospel with them while they're there. They'll still pay for the privilege of coming to play soccer on that field. And so it has not taken it long at all for that field to already be a place of joy and fellowship. And with a few finishing touches, my turn. It will be a place of evangelism on a regular basis. You see, Romans 10, 15, and 16 says this: how can they call on the one they haven't believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of him who brings good news. Did you know that you have beautiful feet? Go ahead, look down at them.
I see bare feet down here.
Yeah, there's lots of sandals. It's summer.
If your
Maybe
feet
even
smell
take your
really bad,
shoes off.
please don't take your shoes off. But if they're okay, you can take your shoes off.
Take your shoes
at this
off,
point.
look at them. Do they look beautiful to you? Yeah. They're beautiful. Here's why. They bring good news.
Amen.
They bring good news to wherever you're going every day. I can't pick on any of my grandchildren by name. Doggone it. I really want to.
I would. But
I can pick on people over here. I can pick on Pastor Paula. Where is she? She'll let me. Pastor Paula goes places I can never go. Pastor Mike goes places I can never go. Shelly in here, she goes places I can never go. I go places they'll never go. That makes our feet beautiful if we bring the good news of Jesus with us to those places. So somebody, remember way back when you're like, wait, what do you mean I'm a missionary? You're a missionary to your world, to your neighborhood, to your school, to your friends. Maybe you're called to be a missionary right next door to your house. Maybe you've got a neighbor that needs help. Maybe you're called to drive across town and feed someone who doesn't have a home and a place to eat. Maybe you're like us and called for a season or for a lifetime to go a little bit farther. But we are all called to go with those beautiful feet.
pray, give, go. Like I said, I've been a Nazarene pastor for 45 plus years, and I've had our emphasis on prayer, which we need to have. I've had our emphasis on give, which we need to have. I've heard our emphasis on go, when we need to go. But I haven't had us practice all three at the same time in the church. I don't think it's going to work unless we do all three. We have to pray. If you're not doing it, prayer walking in your communities, praying for your next door neighbor, now's the time to start. If you're not giving financially and of your time for what God would have you do, now's the time to start. If you're not going, it's time to go. You can go on a work and witness trip to Guatemala and Honduras or El Salvador. That's great. We'll sign you up. Even though we're not going to be there after in a month or so, but we'll still sign you up. We won't even go with you. But I can tell you right now, there are subcultures in Malala that someone needs to go to with the gospel of Jesus, the good news of Christ. And they might even be places that you go, we can't associate with evil people like that. Jesus did. People did with me. That's how I heard the good news. And I hear good things about what you're doing, ministering to those groups that they haven't gone. But we need to go into our communities as missionaries of the God that loves us so much to share what we have, because it's good stuff. I stand here today as a personal testimony of the power of God. My family, who I'm very proud of, is a miracle of God. You see, my first wife and I weren't supposed to be able to have children. A little church in Idaho consider every one of those children to be miracle children because they prayed that we'd be able to have children. We weren't raised in Christian homes. We didn't know how to raise Christian kids. We didn't know what we were supposed to do, and we made a lot of mistakes. I'm sorry, you guys. No, you won't ever do it flawlessly. You'll learn the rest of your life. But I'm telling you, if you'll just pray and give and go and do what God tells you to do, you will live the full life that Jesus promised you would have. Jesus said, I didn't come to give you life. I came to give you life to the full. Zoe life, a complete full life, real life, not the fake life the world offers, but real life that sets you free, that gives you joy, that gives you peace, that gives you the ability to do what he's called you to do and the power of his Spirit in you to make it happen. But you have to make a choice to do that. It doesn't happen automatically. Does that mean that it'll always be easy for you? Well, that was really slow. We got to work on this, Chauncey, a little bit, don't we? No, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but I can tell you this. It's not that God's going to take the hard walking away. He's promised to walk with us the whole time. He's promised never to forsake us. Even when it's the darkest, he's still there. He's walking with us. Sometimes he's carrying us. Sometimes he's dragging us, kicking and screaming. But he's always there. And I want to tell you today, if you think being a Christian means happiness and greatness and good stuff all the time, you have a not a very biblical view. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. It'd be a lot harder without him. But he's going to walk with you through all of that. And if you need some encouragement today, talk to me. There's some terrible things that have happened in my life. But I can tell you, Jesus has been good. I can tell you, he's walked with me everywhere, all along the way. He's walked with my children as well. I want to encourage you today, pray, to give, and to go. Can I pray for you? Father, right now, I would ask that you would speak to every one of us from the youngest to the oldest, and you'd let us know that you're not done with us yet, that you still have purpose for us while we're here, that you've placed people in our lives that need to be loved the way we've been loved, with your love. You've placed people in our lives that might annoy us and rub us the wrong way, who have been traumatized and damaged and need to be loved and cared even where they're at right now. You have placed us in people's lives that we disagree even with the way they think or the way they live. Lord, help us to love them the way you've loved us. Empower us, I pray, in ways that are above our own. Remind us this week that we need to pray and we need to give ourselves and we need to go to do exactly what others have done for us. And I would pray today that this church would be the shining example on this district and the West Coast of that happening. And Lord, you would bless them with a mighty outpouring of your Spirit that would transform this community and reach much further than here. And we know you can do it because you've done it before, and I think you're doing it now. Defeat the enemy. In fact, go further than that, Lord. Let your power be so evident that people know this is the place that you come for help. This is the place that you come for freedom because you're here. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.